What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so you know how we've been talking about Operation Midway Blitz for a while now. You know, every time something of particular substance happens in Chicago, I generally cover it. Well, check this out, y'all. A federal judge orders the release of hundreds arrested in immigration raids in Chicago. Now, I will be fair about this. I don't know the political leaning. According to Ground News, the political leaning of this website in particular that has no name on their headline right here. They had no name whatsoever. It says center, but I don't know if I believe that or not because there are hardly any centrist news organizations out there, folks. There are hardly any. Plus, the only other two news organizations covering this both said potentially releasing. So take this with a grain of salt. But the articles were fairly consistent. They weren't exact one-for-one copies, but they were fairly consistent. Almost like somebody read one and then wrote two other articles for two different publicators. It's kind of fascinating if you ask me, but if this is true, holy crap, these federal judges are blatantly overstepping their authority, and we're going to get into that, folks. It's going to come up here in a little bit, but first off, let's get into this. U.S. federal judge on Wednesday ordered the release on bail of hundreds of immigrants arrested by federal agents in the immigration raids that have shaken the Chicago area in the Trump administration's Operation Midway Blitz. You know what's fascinating about that? That's a blatant lie right there. Because ICE has not arrested a single immigrant. Yep. As a matter of fact, they haven't arrested any immigrants at all. Not since Trump has come into office, at least. And you want to know how I know that? Because everybody that they're arresting, and well, okay, all right, I take that back. The word arrest is kind of nebulous, right? So they have arrested American citizens for assaulting them. Okay, so what I mean by that, they haven't arrested any immigrants. They haven't detained and deported any immigrants at all. We'll put it that way. Let's be hyper specific here. They have not arrested, detained, and deported not a single immigrant. They've all been criminal aliens or illegal migrants. Not a single immigrant has been deported or arrested and detained and deported. We'll put it that way. I know that was kind of a screw up, but look, I want to be specific with my wordage here because, once again, the corporate press, they are just very liberal with their definitions and exactly what their definitions mean. They'll just throw out, oh, these were immigrants, when in reality, they weren't immigrants, they were criminal aliens. There is a difference, folks. Even an illegal immigrant, somebody that was an immigrant, but they allowed their visa or whatever to expire, and now they are an illegal immigrant because they're not supposed to be in the country. That's a difference, folks. That's a vast difference, if you ask me, because somebody that's in the country legally, they should have nothing to worry about from ICE in particular. But criminal aliens are the vast majority of the people that ICE are going after. People that just crossed that southern border willy-nilly and said, screw federal laws, screw the United States and their laws, we're just going to do what we want. That's who ICE is going after, and that's the vast majority of the people that are being deported. Almost 100% of them, right? The vast majority. Sure, they've picked up on some illegal migrants that overstayed their visa or whatever it may be, but regardless, that was a lie. They're not going to release any of these people because they haven't been arrested, at least detained. District Judge Jeffrey Cummings accepted a request from lawyers at the National Immigrant Justice Center alleging that the arrest occurred in violation of a court agreement in effect in Illinois and 5 neighboring states. Those eligible for release must post bail by noon on November 21st. The exact number of people released will depend on how many have not left the country voluntarily or have been deported, a figure that could even exceed 1,000. Yeah, this is going to get overturned quickly. I can tell you guys that right off the top, because what they're invoking right here is something I can't really pronounce, and I didn't bother with going to figure out how it's pronounced because I really don't care, to be fair with you, because once again, we'll get to that. I'm going to blow this thing wide apart, y'all. Absolutely. The ruling applies to people who do not have mandatory arrest warrants and do not pose a significant security risk. Now, that's interesting right there. Do not pose a significant security risk. Well, you know what? Anybody that sneaks into the country illegally, they all pose a significant security risk because we have no idea who these people are. We have no idea of their intentions in this country. They pose not only a security risk to, the government itself, but to its people as well. Because, once again, there's too many unknowns with these people. The intentions, what they're going to do, everything is unknown about these people because they decided to sneak into the country. So there you go. There's an argument right there. All of this is just nonsense at this point. A thorough review of the arrests. In Illinois, the so-called Castanoia Nava consent, I'll just call it the Nava consent of 2022, limits the circumstances in which officers can make warrantless arrests when enforcing civil immigration laws. Now, see, this is supposed to be applicable in this specific district. And, something about this when I was reading this out just seemed way too fishy because that doesn't seem right. Why would there be different applications of civil immigration arrest procedures, essentially? Because that's what it is. It's a simple procedure. Oh, well, you can't make these warrantless arrests and blah, 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 blah. Like, why would that happen? Like, why would that vary all across the country? That doesn't make any sense at all. Like, you can arrest these people over here without a warrant, but you can't do that in this district? That seems strange. Just right off the jump. But anyway, in a hearing, the magistrate decided to grant equitable redress by ordering the provisional release of these individuals through alternatives to detention, such as the use of electronic ankle monitors or periodic follow-up appointments with immigration agents virtually through mobile applications, basically releasing them on parole. Judge Cummings ordered the Justice Department to review all arrests that fall within the same category and submit a list by November 19th, and from there, take appropriate action. Cummings ruled last month that the officers who have acted in Chicago and surrounding areas violated the agreement, and since then, lawyers for both sides have worked to identify how many arrests violated the previously agreed consent. The standoff with the Department of Homeland Security. Attorney Mark Fleming from the National Immigrant Justice Center told local media that cases like these happen daily. And you know what's fascinating? The subheadline right there is the standoff with the Department of Homeland Security. And then they're going to give you the opposition side first. That's funny. But what's so fascinating, right? They'll give you the opposition. They always do this, folks. They give you the opposition first. And that's to imprint that into your mind. Because, once again, first impressions always make a mark, right? So if somebody comes up and starts telling you a story, they give you their side of the story, right off the top, you don't hear the other side of the story, you're going to have a bias just immediately because you haven't heard the other side of the story yet. Generally speaking, this is what people do. And the news media does this, folks, and they do this relentlessly. A lot of times they'll wait to give you the other side of the story later in the news article. They'll always give you the liberal side of the story first. Always, folks. Every single time. Every single news article I've ever read. That's how they operate. And they won't give you the factual information until the end, like the exonerating information, essentially. According to the lawyer, the list of people detained in violation of the court agreement has so far exceeded 3,000. He indicated that the Customs and Border Protection Office has submitted a list of 3,800 people, while the U.S. Border Patrol reported 1,200 people, although he clarified that there could be duplicate entries on both lists, so there is no definitive total number. Furthermore, he said both lists only cover up to the beginning of October, and about 1,000 people are no longer on U.S. soil because they ended up being deported after signing voluntary removal orders. Lawyers representing DHS argued at the hearing that Congress stripped federal courts of their authority to grant parole to large groups of immigrants in ICE custody. In their arguments, they maintained that Congress has granted the authority to grant parole exclusively to the Department of Homeland Security. Federal courts cannot order the Department of Homeland Security to release any alien on parole because Congress has withdrawn that authority. Now, folks, that right there, that's the exonerating evidence. First off, they're going to tell you that, hang on, ICE just violated court orders all over the place. Oh, and this is an injustice for these people, and they're going to be released. This judge found that, yes, this applicable law, yep, they violated the court orders. They give you all this information, and then wait till the very end to give you the exonerating information where, hang on, this judge does not have the authority to release any of these people. None. And I had to go look it up. And God, it's convoluted, y'all. I'm not going to lie about that. It's very convoluted, some of the legal mumbo-jumbo, to figure out if these federal judges can actually release these guys on parole. Right? The only way they can release a single alien on parole is basically if they have some sort of charge in the federal circuit and it's under their purview or whatever, which these people are not. And so just because it's so convoluted, I went and asked good old AI, our friends over there, Grok on X, exactly what's going on with this. And I'm sorry, y'all, I'm trying to filibuster while I'm looking for what I screenshot. Check this out. Immigration Parole Authority under INA whatever 212D5 blah 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 is vested exclusively in the Department of Homeland Security Secretary with no judicial delegation to any federal court for initial grants. Immigration judges lack parole jurisdiction entirely. EOIR Policy Manual Chapter 1 Section 4, I guess. And while federal courts can review individual detention parole decisions via habeas corpus under 8 U.S.C. 1105, limited to due process claims, by the way, which if they commit a crime, that basically what I was talking about a minute ago, if they commit some crime of federal law and they're under the court's purview for that crime, they can release these people. Only in that instance, though. That's the limited to due process claims. They cannot independently grant or release aliens on parole. No authority exists for the federal circuit to do so, as confirmed by its jurisdictional limits and the absence of immigration cases in its docket. There you go, folks. So this judge just basically violated his own authority with this. But once again, folks, if you go back to the beginning of the video, as I said, the other news articles, the other two, and there's only 3 covering this story, the other 2 both said possibly release. Well, I don't see any possibility. If everything is equal here and these judges follow the law, there is no possible way they can release these criminal aliens. It's fascinating, y'all. Like I said, y'all, we've got a judicial coup going on right now, and these judges are consistently ruling outside of their authoritarian bounds. Just on a constant basis, y'all. Like, a lot of these rulings that come down the pipeline don't make any sense. And, if you follow these cases, once they make it to appeals, most of the cases are being overturned on appeal. If not when they get to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, man, I've read some of their opinions on a lot of these. They are really admonishing the lower courts in many cases for some of their rulings, that they just blatantly violated their own statutes, their own authority. It's wild, y'all. It really is wild what's going on in this country. We are in active war, like the administrative civil war that's going on right now. When you have, the administration, the federal government, actively at war with the federal circuit. It's insane, y'all. It really is. It's just wild that these judges cannot take their activist hats off. They just can't do it. They can't seem to rule based upon the law and the Constitution. They are ruling based upon their emotions and how they feel. And in many cases, they are just ruling against the Trump administration just for the sake of ruling against the Trump administration, because they are deranged with Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is the root of all evil in their eyes. It's so fascinating, y'all. It really is. So this is getting outright absurd. This is certainly going to get overturned on appeal. These criminal aliens are not going to be released. But holy crap, y'all, I saw that headline and I'm like, what the these judges, man, are just absurd. They go and arrest a bunch of criminal aliens, people that just sneak across the southern border, come into this country willy-nilly, without any sort of regard for our laws, without a care in the freaking world. They come in and they start committing crimes and just doing whatever they want to do, and they think they can get away with it, and these judges are allowing them to do so. It's truly insane when a judge does not care about the sovereignty of their own country that they reside in because they believe a certain thing. It's truly insane, y'all, but I think I've rambled on for long enough. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. You might want to check out my next video. It's going to be wild, by the way. So that'll be coming up at 9 o'clock in the morning. So y'all make sure and check that out. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and all over the place all at the same time if you could. That would be great. And what would be even better, if you guys would click that join button, sign up and become a member. And by the way, go subscribe to Bear Jags. I'm tired of telling you guys to go do that. Y'all go over to Bear Jags, just type it into your search bar on YouTube, and go check him out, y'all. Just do that for me. That would be great as well. But you guys remember that, you know, Jesus died on the cross for our sins to save us, to give us everlasting life in heaven. So we must be grateful of that, y'all. Like, seriously, we must think about God, Jesus, in all things that we do. We must put God first, right? We must do that. Be very grateful that your sins were taken away from you, essentially, because otherwise, could be bad, y'all. Could be real bad. But like I said, y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.